What's up, everybody? King Triple C here, the Olympic champion, flyweight champion, the bantamweight champion of the world. And I got a public service announcement to all you wannabe MMA casuals or MMA fans for that reason. You guys make sure to listen to my boy Story of the Fight with Will and Miro. You know why? Because Triple C said so. And if you don't, you can do me a favor and you can bend the knee to King Triple C 2.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we will find out.
Do you have anything new going on this week?
Oh man, just working, dude. Just working. Yeah, just dealing with assholes 24/7. You know, but that's just how it goes. What about you?
Nothing new, man. Finally started PTO. Kids are back to school here pretty soon. Well, distant learning, you know, but Mindy started work already, so I had to start my PTO this week and have daddy daycare going this upcoming week, man.
Wait, so are they going back to, when you say distance learning, is that back to school through like Zoom and stuff, or is that like in classrooms, but like just some of them?
No, they're going to start off in Zoom for like 2 weeks, and then after that they have in-class learning again.
Damn.
I think they pushed back to like September 8th or some shit like that. It's crazy times right now, man. Like all this is different for everybody. You know, we're all just trying to adjust and kind of get used to it. And hopefully, like, I continue hearing people say it's the new norm. And honestly, like, that saying pisses me off right now. But yeah, I don't want it to be the new norm.
No. You know who is adjusting really well?
Who?
The UFC.
Fuck. Yeah, dude. And I'm so happy they are.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when we're talking about the new norm, you know, like in reality, I don't know how much normal we're going to be able to get back or what we used to think was normal.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking to Mindy, right? And she went back to work like last week. She started going back to work and, you know, she's happy that she's back, but it's different.
What do you mean?
I think that's going to have to be because the fact that we're having to wear face masks now, the fact like she was having to wear a face shield, you know, just the different like precautions that the school's taking, it's just different. So while she's gaining some sense of normality again from going back to work, it's not what she was accustomed to. And it's the same for all of us, right? Even like when we, you know, went through changes at work, at least we're still going to work, but it's all different. So we're just going to have to continue adjusting as time goes on. And the one thing that kind of helps us feel like there's some sense of normality too is the UFC and getting basketball back on and seeing baseball back on. And man, because we're so used to it, you know, in our everyday lives of catching all these different types of sports. So that does help bring back some sense of normalcy, even if it's, you know, digital fans in the NBA. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen anything that the NBA is doing.
So where they're playing in they call it the bubble.
Yeah,
right.
I knew that.
In the background, you just have a giant, like, it's like the biggest jumbotron ever. It seems like in the background, and they have digital fans that have the ability to log in. And I don't know how they select them, but there's people sitting in the digital stands.
That's a bad idea.
Dude, it's actually pretty funny though. Like this person was over there with a goat. Like literally like a goat sitting on their lap, and it comes out on the jumbotron. But I don't know, man. I'm just happy that sports are back on, and again, like you said, UFC, right, was able to adjust really, really well before any of the major sports.
Yeah.
And dude, it's helping in these weird times for sure.
Yeah, and it helps that it's not like a team sport where like you have baseball, there's a bunch of players opted out. So now teams aren't the same teams anymore, but the UFC, there's fighters who aren't going to take fights, but that just kind of doesn't affect it the same way because you're still going to get fights elsewhere they're not like interrupted by that whatsoever, you know?
Well, good thing it's not a profession, you know, it's an opportunity. And if these fighters don't want to jump on these opportunities, they don't have to.
It's not a career.
It's not a career. Yeah. It's an opportunity. And, you know, Dana has a huge roster to pick from and you know, put these fights together from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, well, speaking of fights,
we
had some pretty nice fights that happened last night.
Yeah, there were some cool ones. There was definitely some cool ones.
Yeah, I was thinking we could probably start off with our boy Holland over here
Yeah.
and Coach Derwin, right? Coach D.
Coach D. Well,
Yeah, man, what'd you think about that fight?
great fight. Did you watch? How did you watch this? Through what platform?
ESPN Plus.
Did you get to see the corner footage during that fight, or did it go to commercials?
It went to commercials, man. I was pretty bummed
That
out because I
sucks.
wanted to see him walk out. You know, what
You didn't get to
platform
see the
did you
walkout?
use? No, like for us, it just kind of went back from commercials, and they're already like tail of the tape. Here's Holland and Buckley, and
That's terrible.
yeah,
I watched it on BT Sports, the British sports network, because that's
did you? Get...
because that's where I live,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
that's just my network. And they showed walkouts. They didn't cut to commercials during the corners. So I got to see
Dude.
Coach D was the one in there giving them all the pointers. It was sick.
What the? That's the way to watch it.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, you pay a premium, you get commercials.
The damn $6 a month going to waste.
$6 a month, you still get ads. I'm over here living on the high seas.
Dude, I got to rethink my life. Jeez. But no, man, yeah, I was still, man, I was happy. And I think now that we feel like we have this personal connection, at least I do,
Yeah.
because of Coach D, I was kind of nervous, watching the fight. I know this was Buckley's first fight in the UFC, but he's had some good performances within Bellator, and then
I mean,
looking at dude's physique.
He just fought last week. He
Yeah.
fought on Friday.
Yeah, 8 days ago, I think they said, right?
Yeah.
And like I was saying, look at dude's physique. I was like, oh man, this guy is built solid.
And he fights.
You know-
he fights in a style that really complements his body type. That get in
Yeah.
tight, let it rip. Just
Super explosive.
yeah,
Yeah, and when I saw him come out in that first round, and just like you said, just got in, let it rip, right? Throwing a lot of body shots, and he looks extremely powerful.
yeah.
So I was just nervous, man. If Holland gets clipped with one of
All
those
it takes
shots,
is
I
one.
don't know how he's going to be able to take it. All it takes is one, exactly.
Yeah.
But man, Holland just fought a really intelligent fight, and I could see what Coach D was saying about him having fun in there and talking, and when he's like, you want to touch gloves? Come on, let's touch
Yeah.
gloves. Like he kept on telling him, and then Buckley refused to.
In the second round, he wouldn't touch gloves, Buckley, and Holland literally reached over and touched his gloves. It's classic.
It's so funny.
Yeah,
and
Go ahead.
I'm sure it's a part of Holland, getting into fighters' heads as well.
Yeah.
But he just looks like he has a ton of fun in there, man. And
Yeah.
it just looks genuine. He's having a really good time in there, which makes me have a good time while I watch him. I think that right hand continued finding a home. He dropped him.
So slick.
That first round.
Straight through the middle. Just so slick. I don't know if you
Yeah.
caught it. They didn't even show it in the replay, but the first time he dropped him, he kissed his hand and then dropped him. Fucking classic, man. That's so sick.
How could you not love that guy, man?
Yeah, another thing, like you said, something that Coach D talked about that you saw in the fight was him having fun in there. Another thing that I saw that he talked about is the fact that Coach D has seen all styles, and he trains his fighters to be used to all styles, and it showed because that style of getting in tight and just ripping to the body and then coming over the top. That's if you're not ready for that type of style, that's so easy to get overwhelmed in. When someone's coming in tight like that, and you basically are just trying to like survive for a sec and get out of there. The fact that he was able to like kind of keep his composure, use his head movement, use his footwork to get out of there, and then slick him on the outside. You could tell he's just it's like been here, done that. Like,
Yep. And that second round too, I noticed he started using the front kick a little more, right? The little side kick, trying to maintain a range that was more favorable for him.
Well, what sucks
at the
is
end of
you missed the corner advice after the first round. In between the first and second, Coach D was calling for more kicks, calling for more inside leg kicks, calling for more kicks to keep the range. And then he went out and did it.
Dude.
And you hear him say,
Just
"Yes,
mastered
coach.
his
Yes,
craft.
coach." Yeah.
Yeah, just a master at his craft, man. That's awesome. Man, I'm pissed now.
I know that sucks.
ESPN Plus. Why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, dude. But yeah, at the end of the first round, one of the things I found pretty funny was that giant jumping tomahawk that he came down with at the very end. Just like bopped him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Oh, dude, it was a lot of fun to watch though, and again, very excited to see what Holland can do going forward.
Yeah.
Just a fun fighter, a fan favorite. You know, his interviews at the end, he just continues building fans. You know,
So
just
much
showing that he's
charisma.
a fun guy. So
Yeah.
much charisma. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to see where he goes. But again, very smart, patient fight from Holland, and
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about him, Coach D, having gone from having a fight canceled, you know, just a week prior to that, flying back to Texas and flying back out to Las Vegas, staying in shape, cutting weight, you know, just all of the above, and just came in again with a really good performance.
Yeah, I was kind of worried what cardio was going to be like because he cut weight 2 weeks in a row. Um, but it held up. He looked good. Obviously, he got the finish in the third. He looked good up until then. Um, and I think it helps that he's not like a gigantic middleweight. I don't think he cuts a ton of weight, you know, to make
Yeah,
185. I think he could weigh in at like 183 or something crazy. Like, they're not crazy, but like something under.
under.
Yeah,
Yep.
which
Yeah, you're right.
is cool.
That was
Uh,
another thing I saw going in, you know, with Buckley because he is very explosive,
mhm.
and you know, with that type of build to have that type of explosivity,
Yeah,
it takes more oxygen, you know, to be able to move those muscles. So I figured if he could just weather that initial storm, he would be fine. But
yeah,
I don't think he necessarily needed to worry about his cardio or Buckley's cardio because
agreed.
he had it, man. He had a great plan going in. So
Yeah,
props to Holland, props to Coach D. You know,
yeah,
super happy that they were able to come out with that W. So
same. And also props to Buckley. That's a hard fight to take on your debut on 8 days' notice.
hell
And
yeah,
he showed. I'm excited to watch his future fights. Him with more preparation, and maybe a notch down skill wise for an opponent, just to kind of because I mean he's new, you know. But
yeah,
I'm excited. I'll watch Buckley fight in his next fight for sure. He looks like he could be a promising fighter.
yeah. Same here. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that this is going to be something going forward, Will, but so far we're at 100%. We have a guest on. They
Yeah,
come away with a W that very next weekend.
yeah. It
We
might
might
be
be
good
starting
luck.
a trend.
Might be good
We
luck.
might be good luck.
Yeah.
All right, man. You want to move on to the next one?
Yeah. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but shout out Tim Means, Dirty Bird. Always fun to see him get a win. But yeah, Dariush versus Holtzman.
Yeah, Dariush versus Holtzman. Now with Tim Means, I did want to say he I don't know, man, but I just feel like every single time I watch him, he seems a little slower
Yeah.
every time, you know. And who was it, Stariopoli?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether it was just him that looked really fast or whether it's just the fact that Means looked a little slower. I mean, at the
Mhm.
end of the day, though, his punches were the ones that were doing a little more damage.
He just finds
Uh,
creative ways. Just he finds little holes in spots, and it's fun to watch him pick those apart.
yeah, but like you said, I don't think we have to spend too much time on that. But
No.
Dariush, man, came in with a 4-fight win streak.
Yep.
He missed weight going into this one, so put another tally mark on that one. I know we continue talking about that, Will.
Yeah. It's a
You know,
bummer when
but
you see it. And again, one of those times, same thing with Jonathan Martinez, missed weight, looked phenomenal, but now it's like this weird caveat. I don't know if I'm going to give Dariush a caveat, but
little asterisks maybe.
yeah, but I mean, damn, he's really starting to put it together. Really starting to
Yeah,
put it
he
together.
is. He is. Had some friends over the Haverders last night for the fight, and
Uh-huh.
Natasha said he looks like he could be homeless. Like if you saw him on the side of the streets, you know what I mean. You would never think this is guy like a UFC fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Especially
but he
compared to who he was
surprises
fighting.
people. Yeah,
Holtzman was just ripped, dude. He looks like a G.I. Joe,
yeah.
and then Dariush looks I don't
He
know.
looks like an uninterested homeless person that's just happened to pick up a fight for some extra cash.
Yeah,
You
remember
know?
remember bum
But
fights?
oh, dude, yeah, he would have been like on the cover
Yeah.
of bum fights back in the day. No, but man, he continues to impress, you know.
Yeah,
And
he really
Dariush
does.
has always been one of those guys that very quietly has been doing his thing. You know, he's racking up those wins. He only has 4 losses in his
Hmm.
pro career,
And you
and
look at
his
his
last
losses.
fight he had.
If you look at his losses, no slouches.
Nope.
You know,
Exactly.
Ramsey Nijem fought Tony Ferguson for the Ultimate Fighter winner. Michael Chiesa lost to Michael Chiesa, not a bad loss. Edson
Nope.
Barbosa, Alexander
Not a
Hernandez.
bad loss. Yeah. I mean, all solid fighters, right?
Yeah,
So this is a guy that I think has been staying under the radar for quite some time, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but
hmm
most recently has been showing his hands a lot more.
yeah,
And I think if he continues getting these types of finishes that he's been getting, he's going to continue getting more attention. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, if you look at including this 5-fight win streak, 4-fight finish streak
Hmm.
with knockouts, 2 knockouts and 2 submissions. Pretty
So
badass.
we've seen the resurrection from Masvidal. Is this the Dariush
I
resurrection here?
don't,
Like he's
I don't
been
think
baptizing some people too.
yeah, I don't think he's ever. I don't think he is being resurrected from anywhere. I think he's been slowly doing this. I mean, he knocked out James Vick. He beat Michael Johnson, Jim Miller, choked out Cruikshank, who looked really good, especially early on in his career. I mean,
Yeah.
he's always been really solid. I would love to see him. It sucks because so far, every time he gets tested with like a top guy, someone like Edson Barbosa or Chiesa, that's when he falls. So it'd be interesting to see him try to start mixing it up in the higher division, especially someone. And this is what I want to see heavily is him versus Iquenta, raging
I would
out.
love that fight. I would
Yeah,
love to see
great
that
fight.
fight. Um, with Dariush, you're right. I don't think he's ever left, but
hmm
I think it's safe to say that he has been flying under the radar for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but is he sitting outside of the top 10 right now? Right?
This he's at 14. I don't know if that's up. I'm looking at it right now. He's at 14 with no movement arrow. So I don't know if he's gonna stay at 14 or if they just haven't moved him yet. But he did
I mean,
fight
they
somebody
should.
underneath him. To be fair.
Yeah, but he did look fantastic, right? And like you said, I would love to see how he looks moving into the top 10 and seeing who he can mix it up with there and what he can come away with.
Yeah. I mean, he was just putting it. I mean, he could barely miss that whole fight. Almost everything he threw, he landed. He looked phenomenal. And his mentality, man, seems like such a cool guy. Did you catch his post fight interview?
No, no, what did he say?
He's like, I know I missed weight, and he's like, so if that, I mean, and if he didn't miss weight, he's getting a performance of the night bonus. Spinning back fist. I think he's the eighth fighter in UFC history to get a spinning back fist KO. But he was like, if that was bonus worthy, give the bonus to Holtzman, which is pretty sick.
What a nice guy, man.
I mean, that's 50 grand. He's just like, yeah, give it to him. 50
I
grand.
mean, dude, what a nice guy.
Yeah,
It's so hard to root against any guys like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's just hopefully he continues moving up in the sport and see some larger paydays.
yeah. And another thing too that I am reminded of in his post-fight interview is how much respect that Paul Felder has earned amongst other fighters. Whenever he's doing the post-fight interviews, the mutual respect between him and whoever he's interviewing is like off the charts. It's so cool to
Yep,
see.
that is
It's
true. Is he the one that said that he's looking forward to his next fight?
yeah. Well,
That right?
Holland also said that.
Yeah. No, I love Felder. I think he's fantastic at what he does. You
hmm
know, as a fan, I want to continue seeing him fight because he always puts on
I
exciting
know.
fights. I love seeing whenever Felder fights. I feel like it's must watch TV. And then when I think a little bit deeper into it, it's like, man, he's so good. Being an analyst, he's so good being cage side. If you could see somebody not take damage anymore and still be very good at what they're currently doing, then why not? But man, selfishly, like I want to continue seeing that guy fight. He's just so exciting.
Yeah,
The
and
Irish
that
Dragon, man.
that just reminded me uh, someone that you want to keep see, someone that you want to see keep fighting, who's doing cool analyst stuff. I don't know if you saw, but they locked down GSP for a commentator gig.
What?
Could be cool.
That should be good. Dude, I hope he talks about dinosaurs.
And aliens and
Dude,
just weird shit.
aliens and dinosaurs. Please let him start talking about that stuff, and I'll tune in every single time.
Man, if we could get Joe, DC, and GSP as a commentary team. I know they need a play-by-play guy and someone like Anik or something, but
Yeah,
man, it would just basically be a fight companion podcast.
it would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would love it. All right, man. Next fight you want to cover Darren Stewart versus Pitolo,
Yeah, the dentist.
the dentist. Yes, sir. What'd you think of that fight?
That was one of the fights that I was like, this is a sleeper fight right here for sure. Stewart looks phenomenal, and I'm super high on Pitolo. He's still a little green, but man, he is like, I mean, he's got bombs. You know, he throws hard, and you can see that he came out heavy, and like I was talking about. People asked who I thought was going to win this fight, and this is one of those ones where it's like I really want to see Pitolo get a win, but you got to go Stewart on this one. And this was a short fight, but it had like a great back and forth, both presenting problems, both coming up with answers, and then Stewart just happened to catch that choke, and it was a cool fight, you know, just a kind of a whirlwind of a round.
It was a cool fight. It was a fun fight. This is where the Elijah Craig whiskey really started flowing.
Yeah.
And my analysis started being more just random. You know what I mean? So as I'm taking a look at my notes this morning, I was like, what happened? So I had to, go back and take a look at some of the fights. Mm-hmm. And Pitolo has just that Hawaiian style of fighting that you'd love to see, right?
Yeah.
And he had this plan of circling away from Stewart's right quite a bit, which seemed to help him out in the beginning. But he seemed to have most success when he would explode in and throw in 2 to 3 hit combos and then move out. So I would have loved to see him try to just get in a lot closer than he was actually doing. He had the reach on Stewart,
dentist.
but man, whenever he was getting in close and he was throwing off those combos, he had a lot of success.
Yeah.
So I would have loved to see him be more aggressive and be the one that was moving forward a lot more instead of the one that was just circling, having Stewart chase after him.
Yeah, I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what changed that for him though is when he was going in, he was initiating the clinch a lot to land shots inside, and anytime he would do that, Stewart started recognizing that and adapted and started just going crazy hook combos while in the clinch that kind of forced him to disengage and be like, oh shit, I got to get out of here. And that's when he started being a little bit more careful in his entries, and I think that's where that choke came from, is because it was it wasn't like a full 100% entry from Pitolo.
Yeah, when he went for that single leg, the drag takedown, right, and he left his head open there. Well, they always say that's a dangerous takedown when you're going up against a grappler, right? Because
especially first round.
Your neck exposed. You don't have very much sweat on you to be able to slip out. So he got caught, man. He'll be back, and like you said, that's one of the guys coming out from the Contender Series where you're rooting from. You want to see him do good things, so I'm sure it's not the end for him.
No, definitely not. And he's one of those guys that I think, win or lose, it's an exciting fight, I think. So I think he's one of those guys where the UFC will keep him around even if his record is becoming closer to 50-50 in the future. I'm not saying it will become like that, but if it does...
You know who he reminds me of on the current roster right now? Frank Camacho.
Yeah. He
reminds me of Frank Camacho, right? He has a lot of power in his punches, an exciting fighter. You know that when he goes in there, it's going to be a brawl. It's going to be a good fight. And I don't see the UFC anytime soon cutting a Frank Camacho just because of the fact that they know when he goes in there, that they're going to enjoy his style of fighting, and you know he's going to have fans tuning in.
Yeah, UFC stock goes up no matter what.
Yeah, I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to Frank Camacho at all. I love watching Camacho. I always have. So I hope he continues getting fights, but that's who Pitolo reminds me of.
Yeah, just don't let Camacho fight whenever Dominic Cruz is doing commentary.
Don't get me started on Dominic Cruz's commentary right now, man. Don't get me started. Yeah. All right, man. So Weidman versus Akhmedov.
Here's my story.
I know this is your boy. I know this is your boy, Will. Right?
Here's my story of the fight.
I hope you don't mind me throwing this out, but you said if Weidman loses this one, you might cry.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's still my boy. You know,
Let's, so
it's
tell
still
me,
my
talk to
boy.
me.
Yeah. So this is my story of the fight. Just because, like I said, like you said, Weidman's my boy. He'll always be my boy. Um, and he's just had such a rough go. But like when you look at like what like the most one of the most iconic eras of UFC history or MMA history is the Anderson Silva era,
Hmm.
right? Um, like at the time, I was tuning in to watch Anderson lose. Towards the end of his career, I wanted to see who's gonna beat this guy. At the beginning of his run, it was like, okay, let's see what the hell this guy's gonna pull off this time. And then towards that end of his era or his reign, it was who's gonna solve this puzzle, who's gonna take it to him. We almost got it a couple times, um, and then Chris Weidman burst on the like literally burst on the scene. Um, like when he jumps in, he fought Sakara, uh, Bongfelt, Tom Lawler, Damian Maya, Mark Munoz. He beat all of them, right? Um, Looking back at the names that he beat, objectively, and no disrespect, especially with Maya and Munoz at the time, especially. Um, I mean, not exactly the run through the list to the champ. You know, there's
Hmm.
people who have had much more notable names on their win streak before finally getting a title shot. Um, so I think it was one of those things where let's give him a shot. Let's see if he can beat Anderson because at that point Anderson had just made everybody look stupid. And then he comes in, he gets the knockout of Anderson. They have the rematch, the leg break, all this stuff. It's just insane stuff. He has the title defense against Lyoto is still one of my favorite fights of all time, especially the ending because Lyoto needed a finish. There's 30 seconds left. He goes crazy. He's screaming with his combination with Weidman just shelling up on the fence. And then he finally takes a break. There's like 2 seconds left, and Weidman gives him the Matrix, the come here. And it's like, son of a bitch, man. He just took everything he had. So, I mean, man, Weidman is just such a cool guy. Sarah Longo, just that old school style. I'll always be a fan. And then ever since he lost to Luke Rockhold, it's just been a downhill trajectory.
Downward
Yeah,
spiral.
yeah. And I mean, you look at his run after losing the belt is way gnarlier than his run to the belt. If you look at, I mean, like I said, it's been a downhill slope. I mean, and Rockhold really, really put it to him. A lot of people hate that stoppage. Um, but then he gets KO'd by Yoel Romero. So we go Rockhold, Romero, Musasi. He gets a win over Gastelum, but I mean, at that time it was like, is Gastelum even a real middleweight? And he did
Hmm.
get dropped. He got saved by the bell in that fight. Then Jacare. Then he goes up to light heavyweight and fights Dominic Reyes, who arguably beat John Jones. So it's been a tough list for Weidman. Um, and so to get a guy like Akhmedov in this fight, it's like finally Weidman. Obviously, I'm not going to say that Akhmedov is a bad fighter and that he's not dangerous, but it's like finally Weidman isn't fighting top five guys. Like maybe we should stop sending him absolute murderers every single time. Maybe let's give him a tune-up fight. Son of a bitch, man. He's had a rough go.
Yeah, and for me, Will, this is my story of the fight as well, and for a different reason though, right?
Yeah.
I've always liked Chris Weidman. I've always been a fan of the Sarah Longo team as well, and what they've been able to do over there. But I've always, in a way, thought that and when I say he, I'm talking about your boy here, Weidman, has been somewhat overhyped, right? I feel like he caught. I know, man. I know. I feel like he caught lightning in a bottle uh, against Anderson Silva. Again, granted, Anderson Silva is considered by many to be the best of all time,
Yeah.
and knocked him out, solid knockout, and then the leg break. I feel like he caught Silva at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's gonna happen eventually.
and then you see a Lyoto Machida, who is no longer with the UFC. He's in Bellator now, wins and losses in Bellator, so it's safe to say Machida wasn't really
It was not
in his
prime
prime.
Machida. Yeah.
Then we have Vitor Belfort, who he beat, TKO, but again, we're talking
It wasn't
TRT
TRT
Vitor,
tour.
who was, yeah, exactly, who was not on TRT anymore. So when you give him somebody like a Rockhold, a Romero, a Musasi, a Jacare Souza, a Dominic Reyes, all serious contenders, he can't come away with the W, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the story of the fight is not so much like, and I hate to do this, but building Weidman up again and saying like, dude, he's back or anything like that. But it's more what is left for him.
Yeah.
I think we've seen him against top level competition.
Mm-hmm.
When top level competition is still young and in their prime. Yoel Romero's not young anymore, but I don't think he'll ever be out of his prime. The dude will be 70 in his prime.
Yeah.
Right. But I just don't see him making another title run.
No.
I've seen him take some brutal losses, some brutal KOs. Let's take a look at his losses here. When he lost to Luke Rockhold, TKO. When he lost to Yoel Romero, that flying knee.
Yeah, not just the TKO, but it was like a minute and a half of pure beatdown in full mount. It was bad.
Yeah.
Did not need to take that many shots. And I think keep going.
No, Gegard Mousasi, TKO. Jacare, knockout. Dominic Reyes, knockout. So you see not just his losses, but the way that he's lost. He's up there in age now as well. And again, nothing against him because I really like Chris Weidman. Mm-hmm. I think that, again, caught lightning in a bottle. We're talking perfect opportunities for him to get the belt, perfect opportunities for him to defend it a couple times against some of the older legends, but not somebody that should be put up there with the top echelon of fighters in his division.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, this was story of the fight because it's like, finally, let's get him in the win column. And there's no need for him to continue climbing a ladder, in my opinion. Have him almost be a gatekeeper for that mid to top 10. I just don't need to see him fight the top. I don't need to see him fight Yoel again. I don't need to see him fight. I definitely don't need to see him fight Adesanya.
Not even Gastelum again. I don't need to see him fight a Gastelum again.
I would watch him fight Gastelum. I think he beats Gastelum.
You think so?
I still think so, yeah. Yeah.
I think because he submitted Gastelum, if I remember correctly.
He got him with an arm triangle, yeah.
With an arm triangle. But I still think Gastelum, I think, beats him maybe 8-9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you there just because I think I also think Gastelum is a little bit overrated as well. Skill-wise, he's there, but I think it's a very rare fight where Gastelum meets his potential in a fight. He just never does it. And I think, let's see. I think Weidman. I get where you're coming from with what you're saying about him being almost somewhat overrated. But I mean, that fight against Rockhold, if it were called sooner, and he didn't take the damage that he took, I think up until that moment, that was late in the fourth round when that happened. I mean, he was winning that fight, in my opinion. He was besting Rockhold. He was,
yeah,
and he made that mistake, that spinning back kick, that sloppy spinning back kick while he was gassed, and Rockhold mounted him off of it, beat the shit out of him, got the W, and ever since then he wasn't the same. But I think Weidman, had that not happened, I do think he would have continued to beat top guys, and he was winning the Jacare fight before he got KO'd by Jacare. I think it's just his durability disappeared after that fight. And I think skill-wise...
And that's why I think Gastelum, going up against him again, I think Gastelum ends up beating him because of his durability, right? And you take a look again, his 5 losses that he has on his record have been because of his chin. And Gastelum, we've talked about it before where we don't think he's reaching his full potential. And I think that there's some mental blocks there for Gastelum. He's got all the skill in the world. He's got power. He's got the wrestling background. But I still think that he would be too much for Weidman to handle right now at this stage of Weidman's career.
I think in a boxing fight, yeah. But I think mixed martial arts, I think the same thing happens. If they fight 10 times, I think the same thing happens 7 times. I think he outworks Gastelum and finishes him. I just don't see Gastelum's only shot at that fight is touching him with a big shot, whereas Weidman beats him in every other facet of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the chances of him touching him, though, is that, because I agree. I think that
yeah.
It would be with a right hook knockout, the way that Gastelum would take him out. But I think the chances are pretty high of that happening.
Yeah, and it did almost happen in their fight. He did drop him clean. I mean, if the round didn't end right when he hit the ground, it would have been over. He probably would have finished him. But then at the same time, you see, and this goes back to also this fight and why it's the story of the fight for me is in that Gastelum fight, he gets dropped, would have been finished if the round didn't end, comes back, gets a finish. This fight, he outworks Akhmedov in the first, gets a 10-9. And then you see him fading. I mean, his cardio is not what it used to be. He's a slower guy now. He gassed, and Akhmedov won the second. Normally, if you win the first and you gas and you lose the second round because you gassed, chances are that third round you're not changing the tide. And then 2 judges gave him the third round 10-8 rounds. His ability to, and that goes back to that champion level experience and that champion caliber person that's inside him is, the momentum's all on his side. Whatever, I gassed. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But I'm gonna take it to him anyways. Like, man, son of a bitch, that third round was so sick to watch him overcome that second round, especially after his last few fights, just to see him kind of come back and just earn that. Like he dug deep for that fight. It was fun.
No, for sure. Were you surprised as well to see him when he was threatening with that arm triangle, to see him not move into a better position, into the side control?
No, because I think he was fine with the position, dominant position. You hop off the side control, especially in an arm triangle. If you don't get that arm triangle, it's easier to escape bottom side control if you can escape that submission, because the position that you put yourself in to apply that choke, if you don't get the choke, you're not in a position of control anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas if I stay mounted and I have this choke, I can tell if I do have this choke, I'll hop off. He might have felt something that it's not as tight as I think it needs to be for me to hop off the side. I'm just gonna stay and mount. And it was the same thing. He set up the arm triangle on Gastelum from mount as well. He's sneaky with it.
Yeah, so maybe at this point he was more comfortable feeling like he was on the road to victory based off of decision and not risk going for the finish and possibly losing that position.
Well, maybe, but I think also, third round after a grueling grappling match, third round arm triangle, that's a hard one to secure. He might have went for it, realized I don't have this, I'm not going to give up position for this Hail Mary type thing. Whereas, especially at that point, he had his back for a lot of the round. He's mounted him for a lot of the round. I think it's I don't want it to come across like oh, he should have went for the finish. Like he decided to coast and get the decision. I don't think it was that. I think it was he knew he didn't have it. So why I'm not going to risk him getting out.
True.
Yeah.
Well, again, no disrespect to Weidman, but I just feel. You're laughing at the no disrespect. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should change the name of the podcast to No Disrespect. But one of the reasons I love him is because he just seems like a good guy, down to earth, and a family man.
Yeah.
Right. There's been a lot of clips, especially when he was the champion, and he'd have the cameras following him around, and scenes with his wife and his kids, where I would just love to see him, maybe get one more victory or two, who knows. And just try to ride off with a couple W's and, just focus on his family going forward, maybe helping out at the gym. I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to see him if I think he is going to continue fighting. Man, is he not even in? Wow, he's not even in the top 15 at middleweight anymore. Akhmedov was 11th. I would love to
Yeah.
see him fight someone like Ian Heinisch or Brad Tavares, even
Oh, there you
maybe.
go. That'd be a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't need to see him. I mean, you look at the top five of Adesanya, Whitaker, Paulo
Murderers
Costa,
Row.
Cannonier, Yoel Romero, Darren Till, Hermanson. I don't need to see him fight any of them. Don't want to see it.
Murderers Row.
I'll be like I said going into this one. If he loses this, I'll cry. If he goes into one of those fights, I know it's not going to be a fun night for me. I just don't want to see it.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Let's move on, man. Oleinik versus Lewis.
Yeah, man. Anytime you watch either of these guys fight, it's like, are they going to pull off the one thing they can pull off?
Yeah.
You know,
It just
with
takes a mistake. You know,
yeah,
when either one's fighting, with Lewis, just takes a mistake on standing, and with Oleinik, just a mistake on the ground. And I
hmm
think on one of his interviews, I love how he says 1 inch to the left, 1 inch to the right,
yep,
and it's game over. And it's so true with this guy.
yeah, really is. And you can say that
You
for
know,
either one. You know,
yep. When he had that neck crank, that I
scarf
don't think
hold,
a lot of people realized,
the
yeah,
scarf choke, yeah.
that Oleinik had Lewis in trouble.
Twice.
Yeah.
He got it again on the other side, and and even Lewis said he almost got me with that British bulldog choke.
Yeah. He's like, but I can still breathe, man. I was all right.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a better post-fight interview in the game than Derrick Lewis.
yeah. No, he's the best.
He's the best. And
Yeah.
ESPN Plus yesterday, I know you're watching on the British channel, so I don't know if they censor anything
Nope.
over where you're living, Will. But over here in the States with ESPN Plus, they had a really hard time censoring during his post-fight
I
interview.
heard. Yeah.
So he was able to get in the, hey, I got to go take a shit, man.
Yeah.
And this
Oh,
is
are
on
we on?
yeah, on ESPN. So it was hilarious, but man, I love how he came out aggressive. I think he showed Oleinik his power when he ragdolled him and just kind of picked him up and tossed him.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was terrified as soon as the fight went to the ground because again, if they go to the ground and I'm looking at Oleinik and I'm looking at Lewis, advantage Oleinik all day.
Yeah. All day. All day.
So
And it was one of those things. Derek Lewis is one of the only guys that can get away with the jujitsu doesn't work mentality. He's just like, oh, I'm just gonna get up. Like,
yeah,
and it works. I don't understand it.
yeah, and he was bragging in the press conference that he's a blue belt, probably the
hmm
best blue belt in Texas, he said. And I think his coach yelled out, he earned a stripe tonight. So he's
Yeah.
like, well, there you go. I
Hey,
mean, one stripe blue belt.
you survive a couple choke attempts from Oleinik and have decent top game against him in the fight. Yeah, that's a stripe right there. You know?
But he was very proud of that, man. I don't have much else to say about the fight unless you do.
I mean, shout out to Texas, had a great night. You know,
For sure.
Texas had a
Absolutely,
great
man.
night
Representing.
with Holland and Lewis. I mean, Derek Lewis just has that insane power, like, and he throws such weird shit, like for his size and his athleticism, like that jumping knee he tried to land, and like he's thrown like flying switch kicks and shit. It's like super weird how, and he's honest about talking about how he wants to improve himself. Like he's like
Yeah.
disappointed in himself and his skill set, and he's like, He's like, I don't want to take another fight until I lose another 20 pounds. And it's like, damn, it's cool to see him serious about things, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you kind of started seeing that changing him after he lost to DC,
Yeah,
where he realized I got to get my
flip the
cardio
switch.
up. Yeah, I want to take this more serious. I want to go after the belt. He's made it very clear he's not a fan of the sport. It's a job for him, right?
Yeah,
So just like anybody else, where on the outside looking in, for us, it's awesome. For the people that are smack in the middle of it, where it's their job and just so they earn a paycheck and they're forced to go train every single day, they
yeah,
feel a little different about it, right? So for him, probably picking up that extra day in the gym or extra 2 days in the gym, whatever it may be, whatever helps him, and hopefully, I'd like to see him continue moving up in the rankings and getting some fun fights. Heavyweight division's always open, man. I feel like,
Yeah.
all it takes is a couple mistakes here and there, and before you know it, you're fighting for the title again.
I mean, that's what happened with him. That's how he got, and I think that's probably what made him switch that mentality. Is I don't know if it's something that he ever saw being a reality for him, is being in contention for a championship up until that moment, and then when he loses that fight, he's like, wait a sec, I can get here again. I need to this can be a real thing for me. And I mean, he's already cemented himself in UFC history with this fight. He has most knockouts in heavyweight history, which is insane. To think that he's been doing it this long already. So I mean, yeah, it's cool to see him continue to take it seriously because people see him as the jokester. People see him as kind of like a laughy, oh, he just kind of like he's got the bad back sometimes, and like he just says fuck you, I'm just gonna lose this whole fight until I knock you out with 30 seconds left. He's done
Yeah.
that, so people just kind of see him as a kind of a joke. So it's cool to see him take himself seriously. And I'm always excited to watch him fight. I hate saying it, but I would love to see a rematch of him and Francis Ngannou. The first fight was so goddamn terrible, but
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, that's a fight where I remember watching the first one. I was on pins and needles because I was like, oh, man, all it takes is one punch from either one of these fighters. And then none of them really ever threw.
Anything.
Yeah, but I think both of them are in a different headspace right now
Definitely.
where they would both go for it, especially if the UFC puts it out there for them. Winner of this fight gets a title shot. I think you see a different Ngannou and a different Derrick Lewis in there against
Well,
each other.
I think Ngannou knows no matter what happens with DC versus Stipe, his next fight is for the belt. Because I mean,
True.
who do you have him fight without? I mean, he has to have a title shot next, Ngannou. So like, if DC wins and he retired, I could really see Stipe retiring as well, win or lose. Maybe if he loses and DC retires, maybe he'll fight for the vacant belt, for the potential to be a three-time heavyweight champion. But I mean, if both of them retired after this fight, I would be okay with it. It would suck to not see them fight ever again, but man, that fight is such a legacy fight and such legend shit
Yeah.
that if they just both go out, no matter win or lose on that fight, unless it's a draw. I mean, can you imagine if there's a draw in this fucking fight? They have to
No,
do
I
it
would be
again.
mad at the world at that point. Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, if I mean, Curtis Blades called out Derrick Lewis after the fight. And I mean, in the meantime, if Derrick Lewis wants to do Curtis Blades, the problem is if Blades wins that, then Ngannou somehow becomes champ if DC and Stipe retire. Do we do Blades versus Ngannou 3 after?
No.
That's the tricky thing, and that's why when we're talking about someone like Tanner Bozer and some of these other guys coming in at heavyweight, finally starting to have some fresh guys, it's that top 5 is starting to get a little bit stale.
Yep. No, agreed. Yeah. So with Curtis Blades, I think the only way he moves up and gets a title shot is if Ngannou somehow falls out of the rankings, falls behind Curtis Blades. If Ngannou ends up winning the title later on down the road, I don't think we get a Curtis Blades versus Ngannou for the belt. I think UFC and fans have had enough of that fight. Maybe if the outcomes were different, but
yeah, the only way I see it happening again is if something like you said, like say Stipe fights Ngannou. Say Stipe beats DC, DC retires, Stipe fights Ngannou because that's what's next, and Stipe beats Ngannou again, and then maybe Stipe retires or he fights Curtis Blades, and by some miracle Blades wins, and now Blades is the champ in a weird timeline. That's the only time I could see Ngannou fighting Blades again.
And the only reason the UFC would do that is because they're thinking, we want Ngannou as our champion. Curtis Blades, here you go.
Round 3, let's do this. We need Francis as a champ. We tried it twice.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, I think it was a pretty fun fight, fun night of fights.
Definitely.
There were some fights in there that weren't too exciting. Kunitskaya, just mentioned the fact that she walked away with a W.
Yeah.
And Will, again, I don't mean to brag, but your boy over here, if you take a look at the Instagram post, the tweet, your boy went 100% on his picks.
You went 100% on your picks. It sucks that I need you to start sending me whenever you're doing those. You need to send them to me because I always forget to do that. I've never done that in the past. The only time I've ever done that is when you message me, "Hey, who do you have?" And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'll do one of those." So you need to send me because we both have the same exact picks. So I just want to let you know that I'm also 100% on the night.
Picture it didn't happen, Will.
Yeah, there's no proof. I mean, I can make it right now. I
Yeah.
can post one right now.
No, man.
I'll add all the early prelims too, and I'll still stay 100%.
I was thinking, I was like, man, I wonder what that would have looked like if I just had a parlay going for all those fights yesterday.
But by doing this, and the last time I did do my picks, I think we both were 9 out of 10 on our
10.
picks, and that does not help my itch to gamble on fights. Like I said, if my bookie let me make deposits, I'd be broke by now because every single night I want to make these bets, and it's like when we keep doing these picks and we're 9 out of 10, this time we're 100%. Granted, I don't have proof that I was 100%, but just
You're an honest man, though, Will.
yeah. And after the night,
you.
when you go 100% and you're like, man, what would a $10 parlay get me on that? Like,
Seriously,
son
man.
of a bitch.
You're getting a huge payout at that point.
I know. Breaks my heart, and my bookie just let me fucking deposit my money. Let me give you my money so I can make money too.
Shoulda, coulda, man. You know what I mean? That might be a blessing in disguise, though, because once you start putting money down, and you might start overthinking your picks, because I know that that's happened to me in the past.
Yeah.
And then I end up messing up a lot more than if I just let it flow, take a look at my analysis, what I know. Not that I have amazing analysis, right? But it's helping somewhat here whenever I am paying attention and taking a deeper look into the fights. But man, again, once I start putting money down, things might change.
Yeah, well, it sucks because these cards like this come around every so often where you go down the list and you're like, man, I just see the path of victory so clearly for all these guys that this one for me was such an easy one to pick. There was no like, oh, who is gonna win this style versus I was like, this guy's gonna win, this guy's gonna win. It was just one of those ones where each matchup you could see the favorable person. I didn't really look at the odds too much for this one, but
the only dog I was on the fence with was Means, and the main reason the only reason I went with Means was just because of his experience, right, going into that fight, and I thought he'd be able to edge this one out.
I saw the Weidman versus Akhmedov. I know Weidman going into the third was a plus 200 if you were doing live betting. But was he an underdog for that fight too or no?
No.
Okay.
But with a lot of these fights, because in MMA, if somebody goes in a minus 120 and somebody else is a plus 120, it's pretty much
doesn't matter.
Take your pick at that point, right? And there was a lot of those in this card where I think Vegas was pretty much even on a lot of these fighters and a lot of these fights. So, but like you said, it was kind of an easy night to pick.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to slight your 100%. That's impressive. Good job.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. You know, I'm just doing my thing over here.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's all I got for today. Do you have anything else, Will? Any news?
No. I'm interested to see what GSP does as a commentator. I did see that the boy Kevin Lee tore his other ACL while rehabbing his other torn ACL, which really sucks because I'm a fan of Kevin Lee. But other than that, UFC 252 is next, and that is just insane. So
that one, I did warn my friends, and I said, if you guys are coming over for that one, I'm letting you know right now, I might be a little more animated and a little more emotional when I'm watching my boy DC fight. You know, so especially knowing what's on the line for this fight, I can't. At least in recent fights, this is the fight that I've been looking forward to the most because of the legacy implications.
I mean, it's top 3 most important fights ever, and at least in MMA. And
I love Stipe. Good dude. I mean, puts out fires when he's not training, right? He's a firefighter, for God's sake. And then DC, again, we've already talked about how we love DC and you know, the interactions we've had with him in the past. So I'll be heartbroken either way. But
Yeah.
my boy DC loses, I'd be devastated.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
you said, if Weidman loses, you might cry. If DC loses, I might shed a tear or 50.
Or 50.
Or
Yeah.
50. So,
Yeah.
all right, man. But up until then, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
Sweet. Well, this was another week of Story of the Fight. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Story of the Fight. We really appreciate everybody's support. If you don't mind hitting the subscribe button, and when you do subscribe, make sure that you hit the notification button as well. That way you get notified whenever we upload anything new. Don't forget to hit the like button. It goes a long way for us. And leave some comments. We love interacting with everybody.
Yeah, and if you want to stay even more up to date, you can follow us at Story of the Fight on Instagram and Twitter, and you can email us at storyofthefight@gmail.com. Ask questions, give us feedback, critique us. We want to make this better, and input helps us do that.
Thanks for listening to Story of the Fight, everybody.